Hello. Today I'm going to talk about my 21 credit hour semester at UAT. How hard it was, how unhealthy some of the lifestyle was back then, and how I've changed to a healthier lifestyle and better study habits now. I suppose I'll give a little backstory. I came to UAT at the age of 28 with no computer background. The only thing I knew how to do with a computer was play Civilization 5 and use Microsoft Word. So it was a little rough for me. Most of the geeks had been studying computer science independently since they were children, and they had a lot more base of knowledge from all that studying. But I had more raw smarts, and I did make it as a programmer there. My main way of studying was actually not to read books, not to look anything up online. All I did was ask the geeks questions, and I got really efficient at doing that. Now, when you talk to a geek, it's almost like talking to a search engine a lot of the times. Like, you know how when you type, like, words just pop up trying to auto get you to the answer faster? The geeks are like that too. And normally what they're trying to tell you is a lot more complicated than the question you're trying to ask. So I would usually have to ask the question 3 times, narrowing down what it was, until the geek understood how simple the question was, and then I finally did get a simple answer. And then they would usually keep talking afterwards, but I kind of had things to do. I was like, thank you, I got what I need. I'll give you an example. I had to download Eclipse to my C drive for the first semester. And I didn't know anything about program files. I didn't know where my C drive was on my computer. So I had to ask a geek that, and it took a long time for him to realize that all I wanted him to do was like click 3 buttons on the computer and just show me what that was. But I got my answer, and it was still faster than reading a book or looking anything up online. During my first year at UAT, I stayed completely sober for 13 months, actually the longest period of sobriety in my adult life. I worked all of my waking hours. I was a project leader, I was a programmer with no programming experience. It was rough, and by the time I finished my first year at UAT, I was completely burnt out. And I actually took a year off of UAT where I didn't even touch a compiler. I had a head injury in May of 2013 that really put me out for a few months. In fact, I was never the same after that. But I got back up 2 months later, and over the summer, I finished programming my game. I had been working with a large team of volunteers for my senior innovation project, and it was rough because they had so many other classes and most of them were working on other projects. So even if they knew more about computer science than me, it was hard to get their full attention on my specific project. So I had some help in the beginning. I was a really bad programmer when I started. I don't know how they set up the grid pattern on XNA. My roommate Jeff Sandyford did that for me. I still don't understand how it works. But that was the first half of the game, was setting it up. And once that was done, all I had to do was plug in the units, program how they move, and do some other stuff like that. So the last half of the video game, I actually programmed myself. And because I wasn't taking classes, and I wasn't doing any other projects, even though I hadn't touched a compiler in a year, it still worked. I just got it done faster. Right after that, I went into my 21 credit hour semester. I was running out of money. Uh, I did not have enough money to do 3 semesters at UAT, even though I probably needed to. So I only did 2 semesters, a 21 credit hour semester followed by an 18 credit hour semester. And I actually worked less during my 21 credit hour semester than I did during my um, earlier semesters at UAT with less classes, because my project was done, and also I had really gotten used to the way UAT worked and really efficient at how to ask geeks questions. And that allowed me to, well, I only worked 5 hours a day. What I did is I would wake up in the morning, I would drink 3 strong cups of coffee, smoke a cigarette, then drive over to UAT. And when I got there, I worked hard and I worked fast and I asked everyone questions. I always showed up to all of the office hours of my teachers, and I did my assignments in the classroom so that I could ask them the questions I needed right then and was filling out the assignments. And when you just get really efficient with that, you can do a lot of assignments fast. I had hyper focus, and I was always asking people questions about everything. And the problem was I was using caffeine and nicotine as a crutch. And so after about 5 hours, my caffeine rush just started to wear off into a caffeine crash. And I would keep pushing myself as hard as I could. I would start with my programming at the beginning, and then there were easier stuff I would do towards the end. But after about 5 hours, I literally became illiterate. And then I just had to drive home as fast as I could because it really wasn't even safe for me to drive without caffeine at that point in time. And when I got home, all I did was relax. I smoked a lot of weed. I watched the same movie every day so that I wouldn't expend any mental energy on learning anything new. I played Galaga because it only had 3 buttons and I didn't want to think at all after I finished classes. And I listened to a Native American soundtrack of really relaxing music. Then I got about 10 hours of sleep, and by the time I'd slept for 10 hours, my weed high had definitely worn off. I was well rested. I drank 3 more cups of coffee and headed out to do the exact same thing the next day. And so it really worked well during my 21 credit hour semester, at least with grades, although a lot of other things in my life were out of place. And I'll just say it's probably not the best lifestyle to have. But yeah, all the geeks knew is that when they saw me, I was locked on. They were just like, oh, here comes Chris, and he always means business. And they were pretty nice about answering my questions. Until the very end of that semester, when they found out that I only worked for 5 hours a day, and I slept for 10 hours a day, and I smoked a lot of weed. I never mentioned that I did any of that. So most of the students at UAT just never suspected that. They assumed that I was reading books or something when I wasn't around them. And let's just say I lost a lot of respect from the UAT community when that came out. And during my next semester, the 18 credit hour semester, I had a lot harder time getting geeks to answer my questions. I mean, most of the geeks there, well, one, they've been studying since they were little kids, so they really knew their stuff. They also a lot of them were like, I only sleep 4 hours a day and I spend 20 hours sitting behind this computer. I was kind of thinking to myself, well, I only spend 5 hours sitting behind a computer, and I don't even spend most of those. I get up and walk around to ask people questions. But they were on a different study habit. I personally thought their study habits were just a lot slower and less efficient. Like, a lot of them had their Facebook open. They'd study a little bit and then they watch like some kind of stupid clip on the internet. And I was just like, I'm not going to study that way. It's just not the way to go for me. They also gave me some flack for not doing Game Jam and not playing League of Legends, which I had only enough money to do 2 more semesters, and the only thing I cared about was graduating. I had been a college student for 10 years. So I didn't do a lot of the other stuff that they did, and I lost respect for that too. By the time I finished UAT, I was running on fumes. And I think they only graduated me because they just felt sorry for the fact that I had been in college for 10 years and that I didn't have any money to do even 1 more semester. And so I graduated, then I went another 5 years without touching a compiler at all. And now I just started back up. I'm programming a new game. It's a lot simpler than my old game, doesn't have as much scope creep, but it's still innovative. And I'm doing it all on my own. I'm living here in Hawaii. There are no geeks to ask questions to. The only thing I have to educate myself is YouTube's and some of the forums. I actually do read a little bit online now. I completely quit drinking coffee and smoking cigarettes. I don't need that crutch. I've actually been to rehab for marijuana, and I completely quit. And at this point, they did such a good job at rehab that I don't even feel like I need marijuana at all. Like, it's just not even a desire for me. I think I can go the rest of my life without it. And so I'm doing a lot of independent learning on my own and doing my own research. Like, when I was asking the geeks questions, I was basically siphoning off of their research. I didn't do my own reading, and if no one read the books, then there would be no answers. They did the reading, and then I just asked them questions. Now I am doing my own research. I'm actually posting it weekly on how my progress is going. I'm getting a little bit smarter about that each day, a little bit more efficient about how to look things up on YouTube. And I think I'm going to get a lot more respect from geeks for doing this. I don't know if I'll ever go back to UAT. In fact, I probably won't, because they said I had the inability to adjust to a geek lifestyle. But there will be some sort of geeks in my future if I'm making video games. And I'm going to have to work with them. And I think it'll go a lot smoother, and I'll have more fundamental knowledge to understand stuff from their perspective and work a little bit better with them. Also, I've got a better job of pacing myself now. During my first semester at UAT, I worked all of my waking hours and I literally burnt out. I'm working quite a bit now, but I still make time to do my yoga in the morning. I play ESO for an hour, and I've been watching a full-length Christmas movie every day since I got out of rehab. So I think things are going to go a lot better, and I just did this video to explain where I came from, where I am now, and see who finds that interesting or what they think of it. That's it for this video. SS Street Fighter signing out.